Greetings, you are watching The Citizen exclusive with Mpoke Thompson, managing editor for The Citizen newspaper. Today we are at India's High Commission with Ambassador Mr. Binaya Pradhan to talk about Tanzania and India's relations in economics, politics, and so much more. Stick around. Well, I want people to understand the relations between India and Tanzania, which date back many, many years. But in focus, from politics to economics. As the envoy, can you just give us a brief insight on how the relations have evolved, particularly in terms of economics, how we have progressed over the years?
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have the Citizen team in High Commission of India. Like I told, your newspaper is one of the prestigious, well-respected newspapers. So, real pleasure to have you here. Now, coming to your question about India-Tanzania relations and with a focus on economic one, I would say, let me say 2-3 sentences about the historical contours, that is still shaping the economic relations. As you know, our relationship between India and Tanzania goes back much before we became independent countries. So, our independence is 75 years old and 60 years old respectively. But our economic engagement have been much longer than that. So, as you know, people from the coast of Gujarat, coast of India, they came here 200 years back. People from this coast went to Gujarat to India to do trading, and there is now archaeological finding of art trading even 2000 years back. But let us not limit ourselves to the present context. And there also you will find that in last 60 years, particularly after independence of Tanzania, the economic relationship have increased within a framework, and now we are having a very sound, robust economic partnership. And you look at the trade statistics, look at the investment data, look at the number of Indian companies who are present over here. In fact, all big Indian companies names, they are all present over here. So, in a overall sense, one would say that the economic relationship has been very strong. Of course, there is always scope for much more to be done. But I would say that our relationship on economic aspect are getting stronger day by day, and they are, it would not be wrong to say that they are the cornerstone of our overall relationship.
Okay, just to get into the specifics, what exactly in terms of economics, be it trade or businesses from India operating here in Tanzania, what areas, what sectors are of particular interest for Indian companies?
If we see the existing relationship, it of course started with trading. So, Indian companies came here even 200 years back as traders, and in last 60 years we see that Indian companies acted more as trading companies, that they brought products from India and from rest of the world and sold it in Tanzania. They took Tanzanian products to sell in rest of the world. So, they have been, the Indian business people have unique distinction of being businessmen not only for India but also for Tanzania. So, if you see the historical trend, the export of Tanzania, bulk of the export was done by Indian people. So, they have been playing that role even now. But now, in last 30 years, I would say after both our countries went into economic reforms, the economic engagement have been multifaceted. Now you see Indian companies coming and investing over here. They are attracted by the opportunities over here. You see, they are not only limited to trading, but they are into manufacturing, and they are into manufacturing of several things. So, when I travel to different parts of your country, like I went to Tanga, went to Arusha, went to Mwananchi, I saw Indian investment in different kind of sector, whether it is into food processing, whether it is manufacturing of small scale pharmaceutical products, or it is assembly line of automobile, or it is like chemicals and engineering goods manufacturing. So, they are into different sector. I would say Indian companies, including the best ones, are now actively working in your country, and they are present in each sector, whether it is power sector, whether it is oil and gas, whether it is the agricultural export import, whether it is agro processing, whether it is dairy, you name a sector, Indian investment and Indian people are working here. And there is a new trend that we are noticing now, that Indian professionals like financial experts and managers, they are also hired by Tanzanian companies. So they are not necessarily working with Indian companies, but they are working with Tanzanian companies. So whether it is Tanzanian big telecom companies or your media companies, you find Indian financial professionals and managers coming and working as professionals. So they are also adding value in that context.
Okay, so now in terms of return on investment of these businesses that are operating here in Tanzania, has there been any sort of business survey to see what are some of the challenges possibly that should be addressed by the government that would create a more conducive environment that would attract even more Indian investors to come in and invest in Tanzania? So how are the business operations here in Tanzania? Are they thriving, or what's the status?
I would say, in last 1.5 years, I think we are finding a favorable business atmosphere. It's shaped by two things. One is the new government led by President Samia Suluhu Hassan. They are more open to discuss with private sector people. And from India, when we are talking about investment, it's mostly private sector people. And we are finding that they are being welcome here. We get good response from the government bodies, the regulators, and they are feeling welcome. And of course, the waning of COVID has come as a additional incentive. So there is more travel from both sides, people coming and going. So I would say that as such there is no specific problem that people are facing. But I would say if the government continues this new policy of engaging private sector people, listening their concerns, whether it is no issue of some work permits or whether it is resolving some tax issues, so these are things have massively improved. But I would say, like in any country, there is still scope for improving that further.
Okay, so more on economic diplomacy, which is currently the government's way of ensuring that we get more foreign investors. You had sought to call for more Indian companies to come here and invest in Tanzania. How many companies would you say roughly have pledged or have shown interest into investing in Tanzania?
Right. If you look at the statistics that is there in the website of TIC, at the moment we are having about 630 companies who are registered working here on different projects who have invested. And roughly the investment that is shown is about $3.68 billion, giving employment to about say 60,000 people. But in the immediate term, coming to your question, in last 1 year I found Indian big and medium sized companies showing interest in projects like, for example, like a bio science company from India. They have invested $20 million in last year in what is biggest animal vaccine plant of Eastern Africa. It's called Hester Bioscience. So they have invested $20 million. I think they should be operational in 2-3 months' time. Similarly, our big port sector company like Adani Ports, they have recently tied up with Abu Dhabi Port to invest in Tanzania port sector. So they are holding discussions with TPA and other ministries. So most likely, if the negotiations conclude, then there will be a major investment in port sector. We saw recently investments in machinery manufacturing. Like as you know, most of the sugar machinery, the cashew processing machinery and other agro processing machinery, they come from India. So we encourage them that rather than exporting all the time machinery, why don't you invest here to manufacture some of the machinery. So in last few months we have good success. Indian companies having working with your special economic zone authorities, and they have invested in manufacturing of machinery. So these are few examples I am giving. In pharmaceutical sector, we are now having somebody investing in IV fluid plant. So these are the examples that I am giving from different sector. But I am saying that there are many more which are on the pipeline. They are negotiating with various ministries here. For obvious reasons, they would not like to be named at the moment. But I would say you compare this last 1.5 year with the 5 years before that or 10 years before that. I would say these 1.5 years have seen good progress in terms of investment. Like I was telling, the trade equation, that has also got a massive jump in last 1 year. It has not only seen a huge jump of Indian export, rather it has seen a disproportionately higher jump in Tanzanian export to India. And now, I keep telling to friends over here that India is not only your biggest trade partner, we are the best, we are not only biggest, but we are the best trade partner, because we have been from historical time till now the biggest destination for Tanzanian exports, and in trade that is what matters, that who is your export destination, not your import destination.
Yeah, indeed. So when it comes to bilateral trade, we know that the surplus is a bit encouraging in terms of, what we import from India and what we export. But agricultural produce specifically, we understand that Tanzania's agriculture sector is growing, but possibly not to the extent that is desirable in the market, specifically on value addition in terms of export of raw materials. How can India help enhance the agriculture sector to ensure that farmers are able to export processed goods instead of, unprocessed raw materials?
Thank you. It's a very, very pertinent question. Coming to the trade statistics in agricultural produce, if you look at the figures of last 2 years, there has been, like I said, disproportionate jump in Tanzanian export. That also applies to agriculture sector. So, we see India being your only destination, rather, to simplify it. We are the only destination for export of certain commodities, agricultural commodities like pigeon pea, like green gram. Last year we saw a new item being added there, that is soybean. $150 million of soybean being exported to India. For cashew, we remain a traditional big destination. And let me refer to a particular scheme that Government of India runs, that is called duty-free access to Tanzanian products. So Tanzanian commodities, whether it is primary commodity or processed commodity, for about 98% of the products, there is no import duty. So they have duty-free access to India. Neither they pay any export duty, nor they pay any GST or any other tax. So, like recent example was avocado, which we introduced in January of 2022, and in no time, within few months, we saw massive amount of Tanzanian avocado being flooded in Indian market. The reason is the other competitors from other countries, they pay 30% import duty and 5% GST. So Tanzanian avocados are 35% tax advantaged in that sense. So I would say in terms of export of Tanzanian agriculture product, things are happening quite fine, and I see that trend continuing. Recently we had intergovernmental discussion about having more import from Tanzania in terms of the agricultural produce. But the other important question that you referred to, that how we do value addition here, in that context now we are working both at government to government and even at private sector level. We are encouraging Indian people to come and set up processing plant here, whether it is cashew processing, whether it is extracting oil from cashew shell, or it is doing some kind of sunflower oil extraction here. So now we are encouraging Indians to come and invest, and some people have already invested in Matwara, in Sinyanga and other region. So they are basically investing in sunflower oil project, so that they will extract sunflower oil and they will export it to India. So there is tremendous scope in value addition in agriculture sector. I firmly believe that Tanzania has lot more potential in agriculture sector than what it is being used now. You still have probably 2/3 arable land which can be utilized, and that is one area I think we can have our future strong relationship, that we link the food security between India and Tanzania in a win-win way, that we come and invest here, we produce something, we do value addition, both Tanzanian farmers benefit, Indian consumers benefit. So that is a area where there is tremendous scope, and we are beginning to work on that.
Yeah. So just a little bit more on that, the avocado exports. We understand that the variety of Hass was exported to India earlier this year, but when it goes down now to the market, there are a lot of challenges that farmers are still facing in terms of selling their avocado produce. You find that a consignment that would sell for 15,000 shillings, they have to sell it at less than half that price because of lack of market. What are the opportunities do you think are out there for Tanzanian farmers, especially those that deal in avocado farming?
I am aware about this challenge that is being faced by the farmers. In fact, I keep telling in lighter way to my colleagues that we are buying avocado here in 500 to 1000 shilling per avocado. The same avocado is being sold in about 10,000 shillings in India. So there is a lot of margin, and the farmers should be benefiting from these higher prices. But I would say, with the decongestion of the Dar es Salaam port, with more container services from Dar es Salaam port operating, you would not have this problem in coming time. At the moment, if you notice, the bulk of the avocado to India is going by Air Tanzania, and there they are paying about $1.2 per kilogram. That's a huge amount of transportation cost they are paying. So naturally, people who are buying from farmers, they are factoring all these things, and probably the farmers are not getting the price they should get. So recently, what we have done, we are now working directly with cooperatives, like for example, Jambo region. So there we received a cooperative who have 5,000 farmers working with them, and they want their avocado to be sold directly in India, not through intermediaries, because most of the time, the moment you have an intermediary, he makes the bulk of the money. So we are trying to link Tanzanian avocado grower farmers directly with the bulk buyers in India, with the hope that the farmers should be receiving bulk of the benefit.
Okay, good. That's a bit encouraging. Now, when it comes to the different projects, development projects that have been signed between Tanzania and India, the MOUs over the years, with industry and beyond that, how would you sort of evaluate the development scale in terms of how those projects have been implemented? Because we understand they're short-term and long-term projects, right? So when it comes to the implementation phase, the different projects, the different MOUs, what would you say is your evaluation of the progress of implementation?
I would say, the COVID definitely came as a blow. So we have several MOUs and agreements in diverse sectors. But I would say the most important one is the development assistance projects that we are doing here. You would be happy to know that Tanzania is our biggest development partner. We are ourselves a poor country. We are not a rich country. Recently we have become the 5th largest economy of the world. But the fact that 30% of people in India are still having a difficulty in meeting their ends is also the truth. So we are not a developed rich country, but still we have a strong developed partnership program. We have a very strong commitment to work with friendly countries in Africa, and Tanzania is the #1 country. So we have MOUs, different agreements and MOUs to do water projects here. So our development assistance is about $1.1 billion, and out of which recently we have spent about half the money. The recent agreement what we signed in June in State House to implement water project in 24 other towns of Tanzania, that we are going to start from I think October. So I would say because of COVID, the projects got delayed a little bit, about 1.5 to 2 years delay, but now things have come back on track. That is as far as the the water projects are concerned. We also have the biggest scholarship program in Africa, in Tanzania. So we roughly send about 800 people from civilian defense and the capacity building and students for different scholarship program, whether it can be 3-month to 6-month capacity building program, or sending people for PhD and masters or engineering, or sending people for defense training. So those programs were affected badly during COVID time. For 2 years they were practically not happening. But from last year we have come back to full force. This year we are seeing good progress. Students are again going. So these are the big projects where the MOUs have something to do on ground. So we have recovered the lost ground due to COVID. But there are other agreements that are existing between our two countries, whether it is bilateral investment protection agreement, whether it is providing the consular and diplomatic services to each other, whether facilitation in terms of financial and trade subjects. Like I said, we have this scheme of having duty-free trade thing, and despite Tanzania now going to a middle income country, that scheme is still continuing, because logically speaking, when a country goes from least developed country bracket to a middle income country, that scheme doesn't apply, but it is still continuing for Tanzania. So I would say when you talk about MOU and agreement, you are essentially talking about government to government relation. And if you see our two countries, historically from the beginning, the leadership have paid personal attention at their level to the relationship. There has been no Prime Minister of India who has not visited Tanzania, including Prime Minister Modi. There has been no President of Tanzania who has not visited India. So that relationship at highest level brings that attention to remain there. and our foreign ministers have met twice in last 1 year, your foreign minister, our foreign minister. So they keep reviewing about the progress in different relations. So recently your defense minister was in India last week to review the defense relationship progress. So I would say the agreements and MOUs are doing well. It doesn't, I won't say that COVID didn't have its impact, but it's not because of laziness or lack of interest from either side that they are affected.
Yeah, I mean, I understand even the latest UNDP report on the Human Development Index shows the impact of COVID in the last couple of years. So it is understandable that there must have been adverse impact. Now, on a continental level, I want us to look at how India ends up using the India-Africa Forum Summit to sort of expand, not its influence, but its relation with Africa. What are some of the highlighted areas that are of interest to India and Africa? How have they been able to be addressed under the summit, and what does the future look like in terms of that partnership?
It's a very interesting question. Now, as you know, we did 4 rounds of India-Africa Forum Summit. The last one held was in 2015. Now, we of course do sectoral events like India-Africa Education Summit, India-Africa Energy Summit, but the leadership level summit, the last time it was held was 7 years back. We are supposed to do it in 2020, but because of COVID we couldn't do it, so we should be doing it sometime soon. But we haven't decided when and where, because we had decided that once we'll do it in India, next time it would be in Africa. So that is yet to be decided. But nonetheless, the focus remains there. In India, almost all the important ministries have a separate Africa focus desk. Whether it is Foreign Affairs Ministry, whether it is Finance Ministry, whether it is Commerce Ministry, there is a strong Africa focus, because people think that we need to engage more. In fact, last year, if you remember, India decided to open 18 new embassies in Africa. So we are basically increasing our presence in the other smaller countries where we are not present for different regions. And if you see the East Africa, the Indian Ocean side of Africa, we believe that this is our zone of security. So what happens here would affect us. What would happen in India would affect you. So we think we share the common security space. We believe firmly that this is an area where we need to work together for permanent stability. So that's the reason why our Deputy National Security Advisor was here recently. He visited Tanzania and Mozambique. Because we feel that even if there is instability in any of Eastern African countries, we should be tuned in from beginning. We should know. So similarly, we brief your stakeholders about what is happening in India, because we think you should know what is happening in India. So Eastern Africa, of course, remains a zone of priority. But coming to your question, what we are trying these days is that we engage all the important countries at leadership level. So you find Prime Minister and Foreign Minister visiting and meeting all the leaders regularly. We are having defense dialogue with most of the important countries. We are having regular trade missions. Look at Tanzania. This year we have had 7 delegations from India, and if you count the number of companies, there are more than 250. This month itself we are receiving 90 companies. They are all engineering goods manufacturing companies. They are coming here. So while the summit has not happened in 7 years, the focus nonetheless is still there. And our the government to government cooperation are limited to few sectors, mostly development partnership, scholarship, defense, and these cooperation. But the strong area which is emerging, and you will see 5 years down the line, the India-Africa linkage would be strongly based on 2 areas. One is people to people relation, which is strongly going to be on education and health line. You will find India remaining the #1 destination as the best cost cum quality combined education destination, and best quality cum cost combined health destination, which is already the case for Tanzania, but that is emerging as the case for almost entire Africa, whether they are French speaking people or Portuguese speaking people. Even in those countries it is happening that students are going to India and the patients are going to India for treatment, and for obvious reason, not because of the governments but because of the market forces. And the second thing which is happening is our development partnership. As and when we, like I said, we are growing economically, our institutions are growing, they are developing good relationship with the countries here. So we are seeing that increasing number of people, they are developing development partnership here. they are finding innovative mechanism. It doesn't have to be funded by governments, doesn't have to be guaranteed by government. People are roping in third country sources, the financial institution sources. So you will find an Indian company doing a big project in Tanzania in power sector, not funded by government of India, but funded by some international financial institution which is giving cheap loan. So these new mechanisms are coming, and I am finding that these are the new models which are going to play critical role at parallel with what the governments are doing.
Okay. So India recently surpassed the UK to become the world's 5th largest economy, and then now we're talking about the influence or the role that India is playing here in Africa. Now, what is the strategy for India as it gains more prominence globally? Because it is projected that in the near future, it's going to be the second biggest economy after China. It will eventually surpass the US as well. So this definitely means that India will have to play a much bigger role in global politics, in global economics. Can we just get a sense of how India is prepared as a country to take on that mantle as a global superpower, playing alongside the US, alongside China? What is the future in terms of that?
This is a very interesting question. I'm glad that you asked this question. Look at what we did immediately after independence. We got independence in 1947, and the first thing India did at an international level, the first role India played at international global level, was to champion the cause of decolonization. So India was the leading voice, along with few other leaders from this continent and Asia, to champion the cause of decolonization. That's why people in India, they know who is Julius Nyerere, they know who is Nasser. These are household names, because these people were closely working with Indian leadership for the same cause, right? So we were not shying away to play a global role, even when we were just newly independent. The difference is that time we were not taken seriously. Now, because we are having much larger economic presence, we have much stronger day-to-day cooperation with various countries. So we are now heard more attentively than we were heard in 1947. And of course, the leadership now in India is very by design. And they think that India should have a rightful place in the global issues, not because we have a economic muscle, because it affects us. What is happening around the world, if we don't put our opinion there, we know that it's going to affect us, and affect us badly. So we want to have a view, have our share of opinion in all the global issues, and I'm happy that that the world is noticing that India's views are not contrarian to the developmental views. Indian views are not sectarian. So our views are broadly the value-based views, which are in conformity to international best practices. So you would not come across any statement or any view, any position, any action of Government of India or India which would be seen as something which is dividing people or dividing countries. You will not be able to give an example like that. So I would say the Indian leadership is determined. The India as a country is prepared now that we should play more active role, whether it is a dialogue on political issues, security issues, or economic issues, or even issues which are now indirectly affecting the world, like climate change, like human rights issues. So these things don't look like immediately affecting, but broadly their long-term impact are as consequential as these security and political issues. So we are also now prepared to play a role in those kind of issues which are the regime setting issues.
Okay. So now on to peace and security. We understand that is one of the areas that are of priority in India's relation to Tanzania, and our defense minister Stagomen Tax was in India for the same. How has India been able to help Tanzania enhance its security, considering, as you mentioned, there's a bit of instability in some of the countries that are surrounding Tanzania? So in terms of security and defense, how has India helped Tanzania?
I would say, to be candid, our cooperation on security issues have been there for last several years, but it's not the strongest component of our bilateral relations. Like we have a very strong component of economic engagement, development partnership, political engagement. I would say defense was lagging behind. So now I'm happy that in last few months we have had several rounds of engagement on defense cooperation. Now we have agreed to set up a joint defense coordination committee, which would be a permanent committee from both sides jointly to monitor the progress on what they are discussing. So now at the moment our engagement with Tanzania was limited to capacity building and training. So we have an Indian training team which is embedded to Command and Staff College in Duluthi in Arusha. So they developed the syllabus, they gave the training, they are still giving the training to the officers of Tanzanian Defense Forces. But we want to move ahead of training and capacity building. We send a lot of officers from here to go and do training in India. But we want to move from training to capacity building to equipment side. So that's the reason why in May of this month, 3 months back, we had 16 Indian public and private sector companies who brought their equipment to showcase in Tanzania, offering cost-effective alternative to import of equipment from other countries. So whether it is providing the defense capability, offense capability, mobility, communication network, the latest IT enabled defense platforms, we showcased all those products. So we had a 2-day long interaction with TPDF, and recently when Madam Minister visited India, she also visited few of the industrial complexes of defense industries in India. We also gave her our vision of Indian ocean security, and we also heard her vision of Indian ocean security. As I said, we think it is a common area of security where we need to work together, and we see the instability in Indian Ocean, whether it is in the northern part of Africa, or whether it is southern and eastern part of Africa, directly having a bearing on us. So I would say that in coming months you would see more of engagement between our two defense establishments, and we are committed to increase our defense cooperation.
Well, Mr. Ambassador, that's it. It's been a pleasure. You were with me in Pocket Thompson. We had a very engaging dialogue with India's ambassador to Tanzania, Mr. Binaya Pradhan. Until next time, see you.